let me start on this. We have heard and read a lot about the Bondi attack in newspapers, in media, in social media. But for listeners, how would you describe what happened at Bondi initially? And why is this even so significant for the Jewish community in particular and nationally across for Australian community as well?
Well, I'll work backwards if I can. Nationally, it's the worst terrorist attack on Australian soil. We've had Australians who were victims of the Bali bombings. That was overseas. And we tend to think of terrorism attacks in this country as things that happen overseas, whether it's in the Middle East, in India, Pakistan, in other countries, in the United States. It's something that is alien to the Australian experience. We just don't think of these things as happening here. For the Jewish community, it hurts extra hard because Jewish people do live in fear. If you go to a synagogue or a Jewish school, there are high fences, there are security measures, there are bollards, there are security personnel. These are things that you don't have at other places of worship. I'm a Roman Catholic. I go to church on a Sunday. I just walk in. No one stops me. There's no security issues. The greatest fear I have is a sermon that will put me to sleep. Not at the parish I go to, of course, but you don't have to worry. Whereas Jewish people, when they go to worship on a Sunday, when they take their on a Saturday, sorry, I got that one wrong. They go to synagogue, they take their children to school. It's a serious security situation, and that's been going on for way too long. The Bondi terrorist attack was the end of that, if you like. It was specifically anti-Jewish. The terrorists, as far as we know, were specifically targeting Jewish people. It was a Jewish event. It was for Hanukkah. And it is something that has not surprised people, but hurt the Jewish community deeply. There were Jewish people who've been warning about this for a long time. In November, we had a visitor from Israel, Major Itai Gil. He's a member of the Yamam counter-terror unit. He is a counter-terrorism expert. We took him around Western Australia. He was training people. He met members of law enforcement. He met politicians. After that, he turned to me and he said, "You're in deep trouble." He said, "Something is going to happen." If you combine the political environment of this country, the law enforcement environment of this country, with the growing anti-Semitism, he said, this is going to happen. And it did. So there is a profound sadness, there is grief, there is loss, a sense of abandonment by the Jewish people, but also a sense of inevitability that this thing was coming. And so it's a national tragedy. It's affected everyone. It's been an attack on Australia, and this is very important. Where was the attack? It was in an Australian icon. Now, the reality is Western Australia has got better beaches, but the most iconic beach in Australia, the thing that summarises Australian identity, is Bondi Beach. So they selected that very carefully. It was an attack on the Jewish people. It was an attack on Australian society and Australian culture. So it has hurt deeply. What's also hurt is not just the attack, but the response by the government. Now, some people have been marvellous. Unfortunately, the response by the government by the federal government, has left a lot to be desired, to say the least.
You mentioned Hanukkah and Bondi Beach. For someone like coming from India, I understand what living in terror is.
Mm.
When I was a small kid, when I was used, even in Delhi, the capital of India,
yes,
if we used to travel by bus to school or tuition, there was a line written on the bus, on the top saying, keep an eye under what's under your seat. If there's a transistor or a tiffin box, it might be a bomb. So I've seen those things, and possibly the Jewish community, because they have been airing those fears, they might be living in the same thing. But this happened on a Hanukkah festival.
Yes.
So I would request you to explain to people who are not Jewish, what does that festival means? And then what it means that if a terror attack happens when the community is coming together, in a way terrorizing that don't come together, otherwise we'll come for you.
Well, look, Hanukkah is a celebration of a great Jewish victory when Israel had been occupied by a foreign power, and the Jewish people had risen up and defeated the foreign power. And when they had rededicated the temple, they needed to burn the Hanukkah lights, or the lights that we now associate with Hanukkah. They had enough oil, as I understand it, for one day, but they burnt for the entire festival. And so Hanukkah celebrates a miracle of the light, but also the military miracle of a small nation being able to be victorious over an occupying power. So Hanukkah is a celebration of victory, a celebration of hope. It's joyful, and it's a coming together for Jewish people to celebrate the fact that they put up with an awful lot of persecution, but in the end they're victorious. And so the attack at Bondi was not just an attack on a gathering, but it was an attack on a gathering which was meant to be unity. It was meant to be joyful. It was meant to be a celebration. And that was the really horrible thing about the attack, that it was specifically aimed at Jewish people at such a happy event.
Now knowing about that Hanukkah festival, I think it is very relevant to the Australian community itself, because we are also a nation of very small population, 23,
Yes.
24 million. Our army is not that big. Our ADF is not that big. And we are surrounded by China, and we are stuck between China and US in a way. We might be part of all these Quad and things, but we have, ultimately our sovereignty and our security is in our hands. So we are kind of that situation, and it has a good relevance for us. But moving forward, when the attack happened, what are you hearing from the Jewish community in WA? What are people thinking here?
Well, the reality is that many people in the Jewish community here have got relatives or friends in the community over east. It's a very connected community, being rather small. Everyone knows each other, or at least knows someone who knows someone. So there's that direct connection. In fact, I was at a Hanukkah celebration here in Perth at the time, and I received a phone call from a friend of mine who was asking what the heck is happening at Bondi. I had no idea, but he said my brother-in-law is there, and he survived mercifully. So look, people know each other, and if they don't know people directly, they know of them. So there's that personal connection. There's also the community connection. The terrorists were sending a message that they're not just attacking individuals. So this wasn't like the Lynn Cafe siege. This was specifically against Jewish people, and it was designed to strike fear and terror into the hearts of all Jewish people. So it was felt deeply. That was the immediate feeling. And this is the essence of terrorism. I mean, terrorism is something I've been studying as an academic for, well, actually over 2 decades now, longer than I care to admit. The essence of terrorism is not killing people. It's creating the terror of what will happen next. And that's regardless of what sort of terrorism it is. 9/11 was probably a prominent example where the Twin Towers were hit, the Pentagon was hit. And it wasn't just the fact that those targets have been hit, but people are wondering what comes next? And that was something I heard a lot from the Jewish community here. People have been killed in Bondi. What is happening next? And that's where the disappointment came in. Because, look, the reality is law enforcement in this state is very good. They look after the Jewish community quite well. And the government of the day, whether it's Liberal or Labor, has been very good in this state of looking after Jewish people. I can't say that for the East Coast. There's a great sense that Bondi happened because the government had ignored Jewish people, marginalised them, not listened to them. And so in the face of one terror attack, the feeling was, well, what's next? This government has not looked after us. What's it going to do now? And people were very, very worried. So there are all these feelings of grief, of anxiety, of terror, and a sense of abandonment by the people who are supposed to look after them. And that was felt all at once. So the community here was absolutely shaken up.